Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you had a great Monday, great weekend. We're back. CASS is back for our Summer Endurance Series. This is an hour and 30-minute race, bi-weekly, so we won't be back next Monday with CASS, but lots to unfold, lots to watch. This is a multi-class series, but versus or compared to our IMSA stuff over in America's Racing League, this is a two-class series featuring the GT4 and the GT3. So, not going to get quite the split that you get over in IMSA between the GTP and the GT3 or the LMP2, but you'll get a little bit of a split in class with the speeds on tap for some of these machines. GT4 is truthfully one of my favorite classes to drive in this game. Such a rewarding class. It's got enough of a handhold to be fun to drive without having to worry too much about constantly learning, but it also rewards constantly learning. So all in all, this should be a great championship. This is round 2. I missed round 1. I was on vacation. It was a much-needed vacation. So, unfortunately, this is my first round behind the mic. I will not be driving this series. I will be commentating it. Happy to do so. Very much enjoy commentary for this group. They always put on some burners of races, and I am very excited to see what they've got here. I've got a handy-dandy spotter's guide up in front of me. I'll be honest with you, it is kind of shrank down so that I could fit it on the same screen as second monitor, so I may not get everybody's names right in this round. I do apologize. This is also the first time I'll be commentating multi-class in a while. I think the last time I did multi-class commentary was ARL's Season 2 IMSA Championship, so when I was out for injury. So you'll have to bear with me because I don't know if I'm sure I'll be fine, but I don't know how well I'm going to do right off the rip. That being said as well, there is a custom livery pack, though I am worried it may not be working right. Don't know. Looking at the spotter guide and the cars that are supposed to have custom liveries, maybe they do. Maybe it is working right. I'm sorry, I might be misreading stuff. So anyways, I don't have the championship standings up. I want to focus on the cars on track more than anything. We are at the Nürburgring this evening for what is sure to be a fantastic race. Sounds like no rain is in the forecast. I imagine everybody is very happy for that. This is the 2020 edition of the Nürburgring, so I believe this is the new one. Not positive. I don't remember when the new scan is. It might be the old 2020 or the old scan. But nonetheless, we're gonna get into who's the first driver in that class? Second place Merchant out here in the AMG. Number 7 Waxy Machine. Very excited to be back in the multi-class realm. It's been a minute since I've done commentary on the multi-class field. And folks, there's probably a lot more commentary to come and less of me driving. I'm going to be taking a bit of a sabbatical from the driving after the Formula USA Championship is wrapped up over in America's Racing League. Obviously, I have got a child on the way. That is going to shake up my schedule quite a lot. It's going to be hard to commit to doing a full race every week because it takes time and practice and setup. So, I'll probably be lending my vocal cords to Can-Am Sim Sport and America's Racing League in a deeper capacity while I'm on leave. Still be sticking around in the sim world, but I will be taking a bit of a break from the driving. Obviously, when Formula USA comes back, I will be back in the car, one of my favorite classes to drive. So, do not fear, I will be here. Looks like we've gained another driver. Jump back to Nikita, who is driving in Kanzen Performance, following him from his Stock USA Gen 3 performance. Folks, without looking at the championship standings, I'm going to hazard a guess that this fella is sitting pretty in the points standings. Had a dominant drive in the CASS Car Series Roadmaster Championship and has shown incredible pace in all of the categories we've driven. I expect him to be a strong contender here in the GT category as he trails behind Ian Arnold in the number 3 Corvette GT3. Crazy Canuck has joined the session. Folks, as it is laid out, pretty healthy field so far. I believe we're at 9 and 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, we're at 10 and 8. 10 and 8. So not bad. GT3s, slightly bigger field. GT4s, arguably more entertaining for me to drive. But the GT3s are great fun. Waiting for times to trickle in here and give us some indication of where people are sitting on track and on pace. A little bit of a too much curb there. He keeps it pointed the right way. This nice C8R. Truly a spectacular GT3 machine. Though I stand by and defend that it looks less like a Corvette and more like a Ferrari. But I digress. We jump back to Nikita here. I appreciate the custom livery that adapts his CASS Car Championship sponsor, Kanzen Performance, and they're back to the top of the leaderboard with Nikita at a 53.619. Hard on the brakes into turn 1. A very tricky off-camber turn. Mastery of that first complex of corners here in Sector 1 really is key to making it through this championship, or this race and this circuit. A lot of time to be gained just off the rip in turn 1 and turn 2. Very tricky, and really got to know how to take it and take it smooth to make it most effective. Trying to make sure no other medium damage. I don't see that there is a required pit stop. Bear with me here. Just trying to see. Doesn't look like there's a required pit stop. I don't know if I'm overlooking something or if I am just assuming, but I would say, based off what I see, no required pit stop. As the GT3 AMG goes around the GT4 AMG. Further back, that's Dill Destroyer. Currently, just got dethroned by second place Merchant in the GT4 category. Nikita maintaining a 53.6 at the top of the field, but Ian Arnold in that C8 Corvette, you noticed he kind of pulled over and let Nikita jump up in front, followed his line, tucked into the slipstream, and managed to get down to a 53.7, just about 0.2 off of our practice leader. Now, we don't hand out awards in the free practice sessions, but it is worth noting how tight that position just got. These drivers still continue. Actually, I apologize, folks. It is 9 and 8 because I am labeled as GT3 and I will not be driving. So, Nikita maintaining the lead of the practice session so far. Through the hairpin, very nice and tidy is the Mercedes AMG. Folks, this is a car that we never saw extensive use of over in Can-Am Sim Sport. And I think part of that reason might be because CASS has implemented a very unique and I think interesting rule to this championship, and that you only get 3 cars per class in the same make, manufacturer, model. So that means at a maximum, only 3 McLaren 720Ss can be on the grid. Only 3 Corvette C3s can be on the grid. Only 3 Mercedes AMG GT3s may be on the grid. What does that do? That means that cars that aren't normally desirable might get picked out of necessity, as we see Nikita diving into pit lane and aborting a run. What does Ian Arnold have in the bank for the defending series champion? Not enough. He loses time. Second place Merchant will cross the line. No time gained for Merchant. So we get a nice little bit of racing coming down into turn 1 here in our practice session. Very brief amount of time for drivers to come to grips. This is where you can determine whether or not guys have practiced or not practiced, or if they've just got a natural talent and ability to speak to the car on a deeper level. Second place Merchant currently leading your GT4 class. Crazy Canuck I'm sorry, no time post. And as I say that, he posts the time 58.808. Still waiting on Vincent 11 to post his time, and that will give you a good class split. Second place Merchant currently leading your GT4s, 201.526. As we see Vincent post a 57.1, a little bit of a wiggle there from second place Merchant. Trailing behind him is currently third in our warm-up session. That is Dill Destroyer. I don't know if he is new to this championship, but he is definitely new to anything I have commentated. So welcome, Dill. Glad you're here. Glad to see you out here on the grid. Please bear with me. It's been a moment since I have done my trackside commentary, so I've got to get my notes organized. And I will be honest with you folks, I have been super duper mega ultra busy with work. I have not done my research on the track names, turns, all that other stuff. I know we're at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Beyond that, I am, with a little bit of a shoulder check there with faster class. Still Destroyer diving into pit lane. Second place Merchant also in pit lane, aborting the run as practice has concluded. Drivers are cycling through pits. Actually, we want to turn chat box off. There we go. Something fierce in the Turner Motorsports BMW M3 GT3. This is a car that I drove in my first season of IMSA. Wasn't my favorite car initially. came to develop an affection for it late in the season. Definitely has its strengths. So we now focus on Sturhaus here. Glad to see him back out and hustling it in the GT4 category. 203.452. A little bit of time to make up to find his footing with the rest of the class. Folks, 10-minute practice. You figure these guys only get 4 or 5 laps here in the warm-up session, so not as much time as you might hope. On tap for these drivers. Fastest in your practice session, Nikita, by no surprise, with a 53.619. Ian Arnold trailing behind with Ben Grabo, rounding out your top 3 in the warm-up session. Joe Dirt fastest in GT4 with a 201.360. Second place Merchant and Dill Destroyer. Nikita says you're on starting soon screen. Nikita, you are a rock star. What would we do without you, brother? Alrighty, we're going to hop into monitor view. I do truly believe that these guys do primarily private qualifying, so you're going to have to bear with me. Trying to find the splits on the map here is going to be a very big challenge, but I'm going to do my best. Currently riding on board with Ben Grabo, who was 3rd fastest in the GT4 qualifying, driving the lovely sounding Aston Martin Vantage GT3 Evo. Works to put himself a nice good warm-up lap, get some temp in those Michelin tires. These cars do make a very nice noise. And a lovely livery here. I believe this is an out-of-the-box livery, but I do very much enjoy the blue and orange. Kind of Gulf racing inspiration here. The number 98 machine of Ben Grabo coming down through the hairpin here. And into the final corner, we will follow Mr. Ben Grabo on his first flying lap. Going to do my best to keep in with qualifying, but folks, drivers are only going to get roughly 2 laps depending on how fast they got out of the box. It's going to be absolutely crucial that these first laps are good. Drivers that are able to turn on the heat and flip the switch to 11, these are going to be the guys you see filtered to the front of the field. Drivers that are long-haul, deep stint drivers, I do not expect to see high qualifying results. Nikita, we expect to be a high performer, qualifying on the podium almost every round I have been here in the booth. But Ben Grabo is a harder cookie to read. Had some good consistency in the warm-up session. Everything's looking tidy so far. It's Nikita currently holding fastest Sector 1. And before we get into the next race, I might have to turn my engine audio up as we see Ben Grabo now ripping through the track. Nice big sweeper here. Such a fun track, especially when you find a flow. The final chicane is a true testament to a driver's talent and track management. As you see Ben Grabo dispatching the chicane as if it's not even there. Through the final corner, we hear that Aston Martin V8 thundering across the line, putting Ben Grabo at a 53.112. Faster, I do believe, than the driver who we witnessed leading in free practice, but Nikita does jump to the top. The 52.443 or 433, I apologize. And the times start trickling in. Nikita, 52.433, 53.112 for Ben Grabo, and Ian Arnold with a 53.449. I apologize, I said Vincent, not Vicnet. Currently at a 54.841, and the times trickle down through the GT3 field. GT4s, however, we're looking for Sturhaus to cross the line and post his first time of a 2:08.139, good enough for fourth in class. Past him, we do have Joe Dirt 9, strong contender. And Joe Dirt puts it in P3 in class, 2:01.734. Folks, this is where it's going to get interesting. Drivers are now out of time, and this will be your qualifying order. First to come across the line on the final series of laps will be Ben Grabo, followed by your current pole sitter, Nikita, and Ian Arnold sitting in P3. Then it's going to get a jumbled up mess, and I'm going to do my best to show you who is where, but it's going to be a challenge because I'm looking at my map and seeing a whole lot of numbers and colors, but not really able to discern who is who. Canuck really hoping for a decent lap here. To get up and into the mix with the rest of the GT3 field. As Ben Grabo will claw across the line, does gain time, but not enough. Current pole sitter will be the next to cross the line. Gains time, expanding his pole by another bit of margin. Ian Arnold, no time gain, 52.568. Watch Soupy come across the line, puts it on P4, and gets bumped by something fierce for the 53.662 CB. Flavios Barros, 153.902 in the Audi R8, is currently rounding out your top 5. Soupy, Taco, and Canuck will take you to P9 in your GT3 field. Sturhaus now trying to make some gains. Can he crack into the top 5? It's a steep ask, 6 seconds, but you gain a lot of time on your second lap, especially if you develop an affinity to the track. As the stints go on, no time gained for Sturhaus, and Joe Dirt trying to break it into the top 2, maybe even the pole position. And it won't be enough for pole. Joe Dirt will put himself into P2 with a 2:01.404. Before we get rolling in this next session, folks, I am going to turn the engine sounds up because I can't hear anything, and I imagine you all can't either. Just me babbling about cars and people's pace. And the session is still not displaying, and I know why. See, I'm glad. See, I'm on the wrong... Hang on. Yeah, we'll get there. Eventually, we'll get there. Technical difficulty. It's been a while. I got to knock the rust off. There we go. Here we go. Now we've got picture, I think, coming shortly, maybe, hopefully. We're on the right window, so I just got to get... There it is. Alrighty, folks. Nikita and Ben Grabo will be rounding out your front row. Ian Arnold and Something Fierce take the second row. Flavio Barros and Vicnet will take your third row. That brings you through P6. Let me get my cheat sheet up here. Hang on. Vicnet, which is Victor Paz, I believe, is P6. Yummy Soupy and the Black Taco is your fourth row, and Crazy Canuck rounds out the GT3 field. Dill Destroyer and Joe Dirt are your first row, P1 and 2 in GT4. Second place Merchant, Heel Toe Hero, P3 and 4. Spiky Cactus and Stir Haas are P5 and 6. Orange Hat and Hogan's Alley Hero are P7 and 8 in the GT4 class. Very interested to see how this folds out. So we've got a few drivers who are waiting till the last possible minute. We might have a disqualification that's not me, and I think we do. And Nikita leads the GT3 field on the formation lap. What a lovely livery to look at there. From the CASS Car Roadmaster Series champion. Showed us an immense amount of prowess in that stock USA Gen 3. Really enjoyed watching that championship. Everybody in the same machinery doing the best to learn the car. You really got to see some drivers develop over the course of the series. And Nikita managing to take the championship in that series. Behind the wheel of the number 70 Mercedes GT3 AMG. Looking to put another championship in the pocket. Dill Destroyer, not sure if he is new to Can-Am SimSport or new to this series, but currently your pole sitter here. And will be leading the GT4 field to green. And a pretty healthy split between the GT3 and the GT4 field. I'm not sure if that is intentional. That is an awfully deep split. But we will jump forward to the GT3 field as they start to grid up here shortly and prepare for... Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, yeah, sort of. I've gotten my... for a moment there, I thought this little hash here at the end of Sector 2 was the start-finish line, but it is not. As we now come up through the chicane, drivers will start to grid up 2 by 2. And Nikita will bring the field to green. And I believe we're racing in GT3? Okay, yep, I'm seeing some shoulder checking. I'm going to assume that is a green flag for the GT3 field. And GT4 is being led by Dill Destroyer. Will cross the line next. And we are racing down the front straightaway here at the Nürburgring GP circuit. We fan out nearly 4 wide. In the back going into turn 1, 2 wide. Dill Destroyer and Joe Dirt on the entry to turn 1. Beautiful inside line held by Dill through turn 1 and up the hill into 2 as he starts to try to establish a lead in the GT4 field. We jump back ahead to Nikita, who leads Ben Grabo by 0.7 of a second, and Ian Arnold trailing just behind, less than half a second in P3. Is now second place Merchant, trying to drop into the slipstream and follow Joe Dirt through, as Joe Dirt now up on the inside of Dill Destroyer, and he will get the position. Not quite, actually, as he continues to try to struggle around That Mercedes-AMG GT4 and the number 9 Camaro still struggling to snake through. Brilliant bit of driving here. Door-to-door action in the GT4 class as now Joe Dirt finds his way around in the number 9 Steam Machine. Beautiful work done by Joe Dirt, but Dill's not done yet as he lunges to the outside and hard on the brakes on the inside of the corner. Beautiful bit of racecraft here and almost a textbook pass, but it's going to leave him vulnerable to second place Merchant now climbing up into P2 as we're 3 wide down the straight. Heel Toe Hero, second place Merchant, and Dill Destroyer all in a drag race for P2 right now. Dill Destroyer still managing to hold on just a little bit as second place Merchant now trying to snake his way through, but the beautifully driven AMG number 35 finds the advantage into the chicane, but Merchant with a beautiful outside run and down the front straightaway for the conclusion of our first lap here at the Nürburgring. Dill Destroyer will cross the line. P2? I believe he crossed the line. P3, he crossed the line. P3 is now Merchant. Starting to nose ahead, but has to brake early. Beautifully done on the late brakes there for Dill Destroyer, but a little bit too deep into the corners, going to give Merchant the opportunity to switch back. And he's around. There's been contact. Dill Destroyer in second place Merchant have contact. Merchant and Destroyer seem to be okay, but now more contact for Sturhaus on second place Merchant. And now Merchant struggling to recover. Dill Destroyer now hard on the charge for your race leader. But he's got some time to make up, as now we've got a bit of a battle shaping up here between Fierce and Soupy. The number 77 Rexy Machine defending from the number 96 Turner Motorsports BMW. If we watch that gap at the front of the field, folks, Ben Grabo not quite letting Nikita drive away. Just want to point that out. And now Merchant once again on the charge, trying to find his way back through the traffic. In recovery mode from the contact with Dill Destroyer, the GT3 AMG just ahead of him. Getting around Heel Toe Hero with no problem at all. Quickly dispatching the Camaro and focusing forward is second place Merchant back to P3 where he qualified. And chasing down the pole sitter who currently sits P2. Dill Destroyer just a few tenths up ahead as Joe Dirt begins to expand his gap over the rest of the GT4 field by about a second and a half. Great racing so far here in the slower bottom tier class, but folks, let's not ignore what's going on at the front of the field. Still have a battle here for P5 in class and overall between Soupy and Fierce. Nikita and Ben Grabo, not quite as far as you'd expect Nikita to be by lap 4. Still right there in striking distance from Ben Grabo, but continuing to expand that gap just ever so slowly. Half a tenth here and there over the course of a few laps. Be very interested to see how that fight pans out. As it looks like Soupy, not sure if he ran into lap traffic and checked up or what, but something fierce now around the number 77 Porsche and up into P5 to chase down Flavio Barros ahead in the Audi R8. Something fierce, so still facing a little bit of pressure from the Porsche behind as he goes to a defensive line. The Porsche pokes, but decides against. So we go into the chicane. Very bold place to pass. It's been done, but it is very challenging. And now second place Merchant hot on the heels of Dill Destroyer once again. Just trying to find an opportunity to get around safely. And we've seen, folks, Dill's very capable of hanging that car out in places you wouldn't want to leave it. Offline in the chicane, on the wide part of the big sweeping turns, up in the marbles, he really doesn't care. He can make the car handle where he'd like it to handle. That is going to pose a challenge for the driver in the number 7 waxy machine. Excuse me. A bit of a rundown here from Spiky Cactus, chasing down Heel Toe Hero in the Alpine A110 GT4. I love the Alpine, such a lovely car. Underrepresented in my opinion. So it's about 7 or 8 tenths back from P4. Folks, we're 11 minutes into this contest, and it's anybody's game still, as Ben Grabo in the front of the field, keeping the lead, hovering right around half a second to 3/4 of a second behind your race leader and pole sitter. Overall, the number 70 of Nikita in the Can-Am Performance AMG GT3. This is a nice run we've got from Ben Grabo right now. Closest he's been in a minute. Just can't find the point of attack. Speaking of points of attack, second place Merchant is on the attack to Dill Destroyer back in the GT4 field. All over the back bumper, and he's going to get a run beside the AMG. So we drag race Mercedes-Benz down the straight, up the inside. Second place Merchant takes the position, but he is not clear yet as we approach the chicane. We've seen the passes stick in the chicane already this race, but I do think that might be position up for second place Merchant, who is currently living up to the name in P2. Train of GT4s down the front straightaway. Tucked into the slipstream of second place Merchant is Dill Destroyer. Not quite finding the window to get through, but trying to not drop a tire the wrong way either way. Doing a good job just staying smooth and driving his race, not cracking under the pressure. The second place Merchant continues now to lead Dill Destroyer, trailing behind your current race leader in class, Joe Dirt, about a second. Ben Grabo now very close to pole sitter Nikita, who is using every bit of the curbing here on the exit of the chicane. So we come down the front straight. This is a great passing opportunity. Ben Grabo up on pace right now to his best. Currently has the fastest Sector 2 and Sector 3. Nikita currently fastest in Sector 1. But folks, what that tells me, Something Fierce has just dethroned Ben Grabo now in Sector 3. But that tells me, folks, that on the back 2/3 of this lap, Ben Grabo is somewhat stronger than your current race leader, currently up 2/10 from his best lap, which he just set last lap, and now really starting to chew into the lead of Nikita, into the slipstream of that number 70 AMG. Does the Aston have anything for it? Just playing it safe right now, folks. I don't get a sense of urgency from behind the wheel of the Aston Martin. I sense he's trying, to maintain, as he's lost a little bit of time in the last timing cycle. But he doesn't fret. He continues to try to run down your race leader, who is biting the curb every time he exits the chicane, up and almost at an angle. You almost wonder if that's giving a little bit of a run to the driver in P2. This is patience at its finest. Nice big opening there. He could have made a lunge. He opted not to, and is dead set on staying right in the wheel tracks of the race leader right now. I don't gather that this is a driver that wants to pass right now. I think this is a driver that wants to sit back and watch what your race leader and pole sitter is doing. Nikita has developed a reputation here at Can-Am SimSport of being absolutely rapid and surgically precise. And this is the most pressure I've ever seen him under in a Can-Am SimSport event. I've only commentated 2 series thus far, this being my 3rd, but folks, I've never seen somebody be able to hang with Nikita at the front of the field so smoothly, so precisely, so calmly as we're seeing right now with Ben Grabo. Joe Dirt can usually take the fight to him, depending on the class. Speaking of other classes, folks, that is Orange Hat up ahead in the Jetta GT4, as we now have to start dealing with lap traffic. One of the beauties of multi-class racing is how to navigate slower traffic. Orange Hat not making it too difficult for your race leaders right now. Hour 13 remain in this event, and the race is still anybody's game at the front of the field. This fight's about as tight as they come right now. Joe Dirt seemingly made a mistake and allowed the gap to close significantly between him and the cars behind. Not sure what happened, but that gap is now less than a second. Ben Grabo still in the wheel tracks of race leader. Pole sitter Nikita like to ride on board the number 70 AMG GT3, courtesy of Kanzen Performance. Lower class with a bit of an off up ahead, not enough to phase your faster class drivers. I believe that is Hogan's Alley Hero. Excuse me. That they are working their way around right now in the number 64. Nikita doing a good job of dispatching traffic pretty quickly and not giving Ben Grabo the opportunity to capitalize on any of that, almost using traffic as a pick and passing when it is not advantageous for Ben Grabo and the Aston Martin crew behind. Still Destroyer still trying to chase down second place Merchant. This fight at the front of the field the front of the class has been anything but not boring, that is for sure, as he continues to try to find a way to nose around. A little bit of a light flash there from behind the wheel of the number 35 machine. Big gap now at the front of the field. Opening up as the GT3s start to work their way through the slower traffic of the GT4 field. That has allowed Nikita to expand his gap to 1.2 seconds or so, and continues to expand his gap more and more. A little bit of an overdrive there in the corner. Trying to shave this gap back down as Nikita gets stuck in slow traffic again. Folks, it's going to be very interesting when this fight reaches the battle between Dill Destroyer and second place Merchant, because that fight has been going on almost the entire race. And these two drivers are not going to yield an inch to the faster class, nor are they entirely required to, as per regulation. It's kind of a hybrid between blue flag rules. Best way I can describe it without going through the rule verbatim: be respectful. That goes for the faster class and the slower class. Be respectful of the track and what is going on around you. It's now second place Merchant starting to reel in Joe Dirt just a little bit, continuing to make some small mistakes that are costing him time, I believe. That or just slowly starting to fall off the pace in this GT4 machine. I must admit, I do very much enjoy the livery on this Camaro. Kind of that cell shade, Borderlands style art-drawn steam machine. Looks pretty sharp. CASS boys brought their A game when it came to the custom liveries this season. Current leader in GT4. Current leader in GT3. Now, folks, they've got a little ways before they catch the faster guys in GT3. They're up a little ways. You can kind of see them up there just at the exit of the frame. We're back on board with Nikita, courtesy of Kansan Performance. Folks, if you're just tuning in, welcome. Hope you're enjoying tonight's show. This is Can-Am Sim Sports Summer Endurance Series. 90-minute endurance races here in Automobilista 2, featuring the multi-class action between the GT3s and the GT4s. Currently on board with your GT3 leader as he approaches the positions 2 and 3 in GT4. It'll be very interesting to see as Ben Grabo still trailing just behind. The fight is about to get interesting, as now Nikita has caught up to Dill Destroyer and second place Merchant. Both of these drivers fiercely fighting for position, and Nikita making an easy move around the outside, but now P2 of Ben Grabo is trapped behind the battling GT4s and is going to struggle to get around as these two drivers are duking it out. And surprisingly, the GT4s doing an all right job of letting the GT3s through. Almost cost Merchant a position, though, on the exit of the corner. And the GT3 leaders now safely through the field, and Ben Grabo back down to a 0.7 of a second deficit to your pole sitter. And the fight's still fierce here in the GT4 field. These guys just not letting each other up. And we've still got north of an hour left in this contest. These two drivers are going to be absolutely spent when the checkers fall today here at the beautiful Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, nestled nicely here in Germany. Weather is great for racing. Ambient temps of 17 degrees Celsius. Lots of cloud coverage here in Germany and a lot of wind, 15 kilometers per hour. And Merchant is gone around. He's cracked under the pressure and now has to pick up the pieces and try to recover what was lost. Dill Destroyer proving smooth, consistent driving is all it takes as he brings Mercedes-AMG number 35 machine into P2. Begins to trail Joe Dirt, 1.3 seconds ahead. Nikita continuing to open this gap over Ben Grabo. A lot of drivers starting to settle into a rhythm. Now, folks, let's talk race strategy, race fuel. Because well and truly, I don't know if these drivers are going to need to stop or ride. 71.2 liters right now. I am doubtful drivers are going to have to pit, at least in the GT3 category. Hogan's Alley Hero, unfortunately, has departed the grid, leaving us with an 8-7 split, GT3 to GT4. Through the Schumacher S. So, is it 2 or 4 liters? I'm really unsure. 68.3 across the line now. We're going to see where he lands. Y'all know me, I love to try to dissect fuel strategy here. Spiky Cactus has made his way around second place Merchant, promoting the number 64 Alpine into P3. Starting to chew down the gap on Nikita again. Folks, this is telling me that Ben Grabo is good on the long run with no traffic. I think once we hit the lapped cars, Nikita has the stronger car in dirty air, in the traffic of the slower class. But Ben Grabo really wasting no time kicking the pressure up on your pole sitter here in GT3. On the run up the hill and into the chicane, just a measly 3/10 behind. It's a great closing rate on the exit of the chicane. Crossing the line, 65.5. Using 2.8 liters of fuel per lap. I do not think we are going to see any sort They might have to stop for fuel. They might. I doubt it. But my telemetry is hard to understand sometimes. So we now start to catch the tail end of the GT4 field again. We will get a bit of a break once they get around Orange Hat here. It's clear driving from there. Orange Hat off and into the gravel trap. And the GT3s are back and through. Second place Merchant chasing down Spiky Cactus here in P3. And Ben Grabo now very close to Nikita on the run up the hill. It's all about the timing. Less than 3/10 now down the front straight. The question is, does he have enough track before they run into more lap traffic? You can see the lap traffic on the map just ahead of them. That is where Nikita begins to expand his lead. Ben just struggling to get through the slower traffic. I don't know if it's the car and how it's set up, or maybe the driver himself just not as confident weaving through the GT4 field, but Nikita able to put the hammer down and open the gap in the traffic. Ben Grabo very strong on the long run in clean air, no traffic. As we see him start to try and catch up to Nikita. However, Nikita is beginning to reverse the gains from the number 98 Aston Martin. And I just realized, folks, if you are talking in the chat, I have not seen it. Terribly sorry. It's now Ben Grabo continuing to chisel away the gap. God, it's so close. But they're about to hit lap traffic, folks, and it is going to be very challenging unless the lap traffic makes it easy. Victor Paz in the number 4 Corvette GT3. This is same class. Nikita, though, third in line in this slipstream, really going to see a benefit as Paz goes deep in turn 1, allowing your race leaders through. Ian Arnold to follow. Ian Arnold several seconds behind. But just not finding the groove to get through. Now we're starting to see some attack and offense here from this number 98 machine as he starts to really chew into the gap. But folks, there is no sense of urgency, really, if we think about it. 54 minutes on the nose now left in this competition. He doesn't have to push too hard. He just has to keep Nikita in striking distance and maybe proof of concept that he can get around. Because ultimately, he definitely seems to have the pace. 1/10 of a second. Less than a 1/10 and a half now. Less than a 1/10 now. Up the hill to the chicane. He backs off early, opening the gap. But has a great run up through the chicane. This is a fascinatingly exciting race at the front of the field, folks, as now you're starting to see some offensive maneuvers from the number 98 Aston, but that cost an immense amount of time. Too deep on the brake pedal in turn 1. Opened that gap from 2/10 to 8/10, and it continues to grow as it's now settling right around 7/10. Folks, look at how fast he can work that gap back down. Ben is not, by any means, struggling for speed. The more I watch, the more I think he is waiting. He's being patient. And if fuel is going to be of concern, folks, Nikita has burned 7 liters more than your race leader of Ben Grabo. I believe these cars all have the same size fuel tank. Could be wrong. If I am, I apologize. But if fuel is going to be a factor, Ben is saving a lot of fuel. And that extra few seconds of not topping off fuel could be the difference between a position gained and a position lost in pit lane. So maybe he just kind of wants to sit back and hang out in the draft of your race leader and pole sitter. Cactus and second place Merchant still very close and at odds with each other. Merchant trying to recover as I apologize, but I have missed Dill Destroyer getting to the front of the field. It seems Joe Dirt and the number 9 Steam Machine have had an incident. And that Camaro now sitting P2 seems to be unharmed. Not sure if he went too deep on the brakes and went off the track and into the gravel or what, but your race leader for the vast majority of this race thus far, now currently P2 with Dill Destroyer leading with great margin, nearly 10 seconds, 8 seconds, I guess. And Ben Grabo up ahead, really chasing down the race leader, and now Something Fierce bringing Something Fast to the back of Flavio Barros in the R8 GT3. You can see the checkup there. Right on board. Turner Motorsports Liquid Molly machine, driven by Something Fierce. He's done a great job climbing through the time to catch up to CB. CB had a bit of a rough go in the Can-Am Sim Sport CASS Car Roadmaster Series. They're a brutal car to learn how to drive, but he is definitely finding a rhythm and finding a groove here in this multi-class GT series, which we love to see. And Ben Grabo now on pit lane. This seems to be a scheduled stop. 52.2 liters of fuel on board his machine right now. It does seem that drivers are expected to make a stop, I would assume. And now the strategy begins. Is the undercut going to be good enough as Flavio Barros and the battle for P4 and 5 come racing up alongside Ben Grabo? Ben going to do his best to maintain position, but if these drivers also are going to have to pit, Ben will not push too terribly hard on cold Michelins. We love the floating car glitch. Thanks AMS2 for keeping things immersive. And there goes CB around and into the gravel trap. Manages to keep it off the wall, but the position is lost, and Something Fierce will go through, and he is off and into the gravel trap. Can he keep it off the wall as well? Big off for Something Fierce, and Ben Grabo surviving the chaos. And we expect to see Nikita in the next couple laps if he wants to try to cover the pit sequence started by Ben Grabo. Currently sitting 34 seconds behind. Nikita will go out for another lap. He's not required to stop anytime soon. He's got plenty of fuel on board. But Ben Grabo definitely had the pace advantage, and he spent less time on pit lane fueling, which is critical. Something Fierce fuming likely behind the visor of that BMW. Folks, we've just about reached the halfway point of tonight's event. And I'm unsure if this is a real sponsor or not, but until I know otherwise, I'm going to treat it as such. I know nothing about them. It's part of the reason I'm unsure if it is real, but tonight's event and this series are sponsored by Wasabi and Ginger Dental Products. I don't know anything about that company other than it's Wasabi and Ginger and their dental products, so if they're a real company, we appreciate everything they do, and if they're not a real company, it gives us something to make it sound like we're an official sport. Thank you, Wasabi and Ginger Dental Products, for all you do for Can-Am Sim Sport. You are watching on the LPO network. Do a little bit of a self-plug there. This is a bi-weekly series. We will race this week, and we will be off for a week and return next week. Or, I'm sorry, return the following week. where we are racing at one moment. I don't actually know. Stand by. Didn't do my research. Next round will be Kyalami. Great circuit. Nikita continuing to lead. Not showing any signs of desiring pit lane anytime soon. Folks, I'm not sure if these guys are going to have to stop. I would presume Ben would not have stopped if he didn't see the advantage to it. So it will be very interesting to see what happens with the blend. Race leader coming through the tail end of Sector 2 as he catches up to dirty traffic, or dirty air in the slower traffic. Now, folks, in a proper race where you are battling for tenths of a second, this is when I would be pitting. Lap traffic ahead of me, a big train of lap traffic coming. There's 2 cars here, 3 cars ahead of them. This is when I want to try to pit. I don't want to get stuck behind these guys too long. My opponent, plenty of clear track right now, according to the telemetry. Whether he has that information handy or not, unbeknownst to me. And we are talking about Nikita, who has buckets of pace at any given time. He could have had the dial turned to 4 and maybe has cranked it to 11. Though Ben Grabo is back to maintaining best Sector 2 and 3. Nikita, best Sector 1. Ben Grabo's still faster on 66% of the lap. And Nikita continuing on. He will be approaching more slower traffic shortly. Is now Ben Grabo back up into P2, 36 seconds behind, as Ian Arnold has boxed, presumably for a scheduled stop. This is going to be a tight blend, I believe, when these drivers come out of pit lane. Nikita will be on cold tires. I presume a pit stop is mandatory at this point because I'm seeing people stop, and I don't imagine they'd stop unless they had to. Whether it be for tires or fuel or race requirement, people are stopping. And I'll be honest, folks, I skimmed the rules. I did not deeply read them. And Nikita now commits to pit lane, and Ben Grabo, 33 seconds behind, will be looking to try and claim the position, but now he is mired in GT4 traffic, which will be slowing his gains immensely. He wastes no time getting to the inside of these drivers and will not give up any sort of track position up onto the curbs, trying to keep himself in the fight. As he comes through the chicane, Nikita is back on the ground and underway. Your race leader will be exiting pit lane, and this is the blend we want to watch. Did the overcut or the undercut work? It seems to me that the overcut is the way to go. Nikita out and back on track. Cold Michelin tires underneath that AMG GT3, but he leads Ben Grabo now by 7 seconds. And is away and satisfying his pit stop requirement. Folks, that tells me that Nikita was holding back in the race running stints, saving the fuel, saving the tires. Ben Grabo now 5.5 seconds back from Nikita, managing to shave 2 seconds and continuing to cut the lead back just a little bit. Curious to see if he can make it. To the front of this field. Spiky Cactus and Joe Dirt still at odds with each other after, or not Spiky Cactus and Joe Dirt, Spiky Cactus and second place Merchant after Merchant's spin earlier. Merchant on the outside of the final corner, not enough to get it done, but he's going to try to switch back and into the slipstream here of Spiky Cactus. Very aggressive on the brakes, and look at that hump they go through on the apex of the entry of 1. Brilliant bit of driving from both of these drivers as Merchant trying to find a way around. Almost lost the back end of that Mercedes again in turn number 3. Managed to keep it all put together. Is looking for the opportunity to get around. Just not finding the window. 4.5 seconds down to Nikita is Ben Grabo. The gap continuing to shrink ever so slightly. Now down 3.5 seconds. Begging the question of, did Nikita make an uncharacteristic mistake? The gap is back up to 4.5. I think it's the timing board being ever so strange. Second place Merchant will almost assuredly be boxing at the end of this lap. Spiky Cactus seems to have filled his pit stop requirement. He's got plenty of fuel on board that Alpine machine. Merchant not likely aware of that fact. Joe Dirt and Dill Destroyer, both with plenty of fuel on board, look to have satisfied their pit stop and fuel requirement. And second place Merchant now in the box for fuel on board that AMG GT3 machine. Four and a half seconds still is the gap from your race leader to Ben Grabo. The fight for the overall win tonight. If you're just tuning in, welcome. About 37 minutes left in tonight's 90-minute Endurance Summer Series race. This is round 2 of the championship. Here at the Nürburgring, nestled in the beautiful, beautiful country of Germany. This is the GP circuit. Multi-class action tonight. GT3 and GT4 out on the circuit this evening. Folks, there's been some great battles on the track so far throughout the field. GT4 and GT3 both loaded with some excitement. As Vic and Taco, I believe one of the tightest battles we had on track for a moment there. It seems to have pretty quickly simmered down. There's Vic in the background. Dill Destroyer really Really flexing here in the GT4 category. Leading Joe Dirt by 11 seconds. Very impressive, given the pace that Joe Dirt showed early in this contest. Figured he would have been a shoe-in for the win. But I believe he made a bit of a mistake. That cost him the lead of this race, and then as the pits cycled out, that gap seems to have expanded even further, leaving Joe Dirt in P2. Spiky Cactus now comfortably in the podium positions here in the GT4 category, which has suffered a little bit of attrition this evening, down to 6 drivers in class. Ben Graybo back north of 5 seconds of your race leader, Nikita. Nikita around Joe Dirt, the GT4 category, and continuing his charge through the field. Now Vic and Taco very close. This is for P6 in class. Trying to find a little bit of clean air here in the number 4 Corvette. Hard and deep on the brakes into turn 1. But Taco now closing the gap down on the BMW up ahead by a pretty immense margin. And he goes around and into the gravel trap. VicNet 11, Victor Paz in the number 4 Corvette has gone around, freeing the BMW of Taco to breathe a sigh of relief as he continues around and on his lap. Nikita continuing to lead this field with authority. And I'm going to take a brief moment, rest my voice, and go get some water. Put you on board, courtesy of Kanzen Performance, with your race leader and pole sitter Nikita in the number 70 AMG GT3 Mercedes. I'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. All right, folks, I am back. Had to give the voice a good old rest. Got a driver coming down pit lane, I believe. Did I see a driver coming down pit lane? I did. Soupy in the number 77 Rexy machine. And that seems to be a drive-through penalty? I don't believe I saw him stop for service. I think that was an on-track penalty. Not positive. Don't hold me to it. Nonetheless, Nikita continuing to open the gap here on Ben Grabo. It's going to take a miracle now for this Aston Martin. To catch up to the race leader. And folks, the battles have kind of simmered down for the time being. Now, that's very subject to change here in multi-class racing as drivers will start to catch up to lap traffic, get a group of it. Doesn't take long to cost you a lot of time, but what is astonishing to me is the gap that P1 and P2 overall have built to the rest of the drivers in class. 51 seconds separates P1 and P3. 46 seconds separates P2 and P3. Absolutely insane, the gap that these two drivers have built. It shows that cleanliness, consistency really does pay off here in GT racing. Grabo catching up to slower vehicle of Taco. It's P6 ahead. Taco giving him the window to get through. Ben Grabo is off and away. And Nikita did not make a mistake. Sorry. The timing and scoring, much like regular racing, is incredibly off tonight. For a moment there, it looked like he was 2.5 seconds behind. But now it's settled back to where he was, which was 6 and some odd seconds ahead. Disregard false alarm. And folks, testament to the fact that Nikita was keeping a lid on it. He pit in on, I believe, I'm unsure. Let's just, we'll see. Pit 8 laps ago. So that would be lap 28? 28? No. 26. Right? 25. He pit on lap 25. If that is to be believed. I don't know if that sounds about right. Yeah, he just crossed the line and went to 9 laps. So yeah, 9 laps ago. So that'd be lap 25. Lap 25. He pit. Lap 29. Set the fastest first sector. Lap 28. Set the fastest second sector. Lap 27. Set the fastest third sector. Nikita had plenty of pace in reserve. He was saving it for the final stint, and he dropped the hammer when it counted on that outlap and the subsequent laps to follow while those Michelins came up to temp. That right there is the kind of driving that is going to win races. It's the kind of driving that is going to win championships, and it is the reason that he's your current championship defender. Carried Grip DLL through the CASS Car Roadmaster Series to some stellar victories. Carried a team on his back, essentially. I don't remember where they fell in the team's championship, but I know this driver right here is something of a spectacle to watch. Everywhere he turns up, he seems to be quick. With 24 and a half minutes left in tonight's feature event, I don't think anybody would be surprised if he comes home with the win tonight. But folks, lots of racing left to be had. Ben Grabo's still lurking in that 6.5 second window or so. Just trying to find the opportunity, find the speed, the window to get around. And hoping for a mistake from Mr. Perfect here. We call him Mr. Perfect, but he has made mistakes in the past. We saw a handful of them in the DTM Championship, always seemingly at the most inopportune times, but has managed to keep a lid on it for a while. No massive on-track mistakes from Nikita. Which is well and truly what you would expect out of a championship caliber driver as he flashes the lights to the slower class ahead to try to get around. Unlike Nikita to seem like he's in a hurry. Plenty of leeway between him and P2 behind. Keep a loose eye on the battle between Taco and Soupy. Those drivers are about 1.5 to 2 seconds apart. That gap fluctuating a little bit. Soupy, who I believe is coming off of a drive-through penalty, though not positive once again. I'm unsure. And it looks like something fierce once again off and in the gravel trap. Very unfortunate. Had a great battle going earlier with Taco. Actually managed to get around. Oh no, he was chasing down Flavio Barros, believe. Went off and into the sand after Flavio spun. Flavio finding his way back around, it seems. Something fierce falling further down the ladder. Ben Grabo starting to trail further and further behind your race leader, Nikita. And now Taco starting to get a rear view mirror full of Rexy. See the purple headlights there in the background. Those are the number 77 of Soupy. Just kind of over here, hovering in the middle of that mirror there. Camera. You can see him enter the frame every so often. Sturhaus trying to catch up to Heel Tohir, off and in the sand and into the grass. Through the chicane, manages to keep the double O machine pointed the right way. So we now start winding the clock down to 20 minutes of racing left. Still anybody's game, folks. Anybody can make a mistake at any given time. Safety car could come up, stack the field up. Your guess is as good as mine on what might happen this evening. One thing I know, though, got some heavy hitters, and this driver right here definitely earned everything he got. Would like to remind you 2 laps ago, or like to update you 2 laps ago, he did break his fastest Sector 3 time and set a new faster Sector 3 time. The 26.461. That was lap 35. Still has pace to give. And doesn't seem to plan. Doesn't seem to have been in any danger of losing position. Estimated 10 laps remaining. Boy, timing and scoring is super messed up. That is not a 1.2 second gap at all. This is the car we're watching. The car that I am watching for, not even in the picture. But it thinks he is like right there. Nikita turning up the heat some more, leaving Ben Grabo in the dust, 10.6 seconds behind. If the wonderful timing board is to be believed. Don't know if I take it as gospel, but the point is, commanding lead from your race leader and pole sitter, Nikita. I think this is a lie, and I keep jumping back because I think it's getting close. And in fact, it is not. This fight, though, very much is getting close. Soupy now hot on the heels of Taco. Just trying to keep things on the straight and narrow. And fall into the wheel tracks of the BMW is now he's got a great run. Can he make anything stick? He's going to bow out of it this turn and try to set something up on the downhill. Nose is out to the right. thinks better. Tucks back into the slipstream and through the hairpin. He's going to get another opportunity here on the uphill towards the Schumacher S. A little bit of a gap opening up now. So he'll be doing everything he can to stay tidy. A lot of elevation changes here at the Nürburgring. I think folks don't quite anticipate here at the GP circuit. This is not obviously the full Nordschleife. Far from it. Just a small sample of the Nürburgring proper. But still just as challenging for many different reasons. It's a longer lap. Obviously, your GT3s are running, you know, minute 52 to minute 54, depending on fuel load, fuel save, strategy, whatnot. Your GT4s are running 201s to 204s, you know, again, depending on fuel load and strategy. So it's a long lap. A lot of time to be gained or lost here at the GP circuit, but a lot more elevation than one might expect. And that is especially important when it starts to get the car off kilter, right? You want all four tires planted right and well and square. And some of these corners you'll see are a little bit off camber. Turn 1 is a perfect example. It's just kind of awkward. The elevation is low and high in turn 1 all simultaneously, making it a very challenging spot to master and a very easy spot to gain and lose time on somebody you're racing. It's a great passing opportunity there off the front stretch. Everybody's hard on the brakes there. A lot of different lines that you can take that will still be, I would say, somewhat successful. But it's still a challenging corner. It can make or break a lap, beyond question. So this track, well and truly, is a lot of fun. It's got a great flow to it, especially once you start to learn it. But it definitely rewards track knowledge and commitment, especially. It may not be the full Nürburgring proper, but the GP circuit has its own set of challenges that should not be underestimated. So it looks like Joe Dirt was in pit lane. Unsure if that was a scheduled stop. He has plenty of fuel on board. Wondering if that was a drive-through penalty. His gap to P1 of Dill Destroyer has expanded immensely. God, I love the livery, though. Lap traffic here. Might come in clutch for Soupy in that Porsche back behind. Trying to find an opportunity to get through. And folks, Ben Grabo has gone from a 10-second deficit to 4.6 with 11 minutes remaining. Is this a mistake from Nikita that has cost him a great amount of time? Or did Ben also have pace in the tank that he was just reserving? Is now the Aston Martin really starting to show some prowess. Nikita responding. This fight may not be over just yet, folks. Your race leader might still have a battle coming his way. And ahead of us, folks, is, I believe, something fierce. Ben Grabo now 3.8, 3.9 seconds. This race is not over. With 9 minutes remaining, Ben Grabo is closing in on Nikita. And I don't think it's a fuel game, folks. I don't know if Nikita made a mistake. We're focused on another battle in the field, and we missed the gap closing down. .8, 4.2, 4.4, kind of bouncing and hovering right there around the 4 1/4. But he is definitely on the charge. 3.7, 3.8. He's hovering right around 4 seconds, folks. And now Nikita mired in traffic. That's something fierce ahead. Holding him up ever so slightly, but enough to give Ben Grabo another few tenths. 7.5 minutes remain. 4 seconds behind the leader. Can Ben Grabo bring the number 98 Aston Martin to the front of the field before the checkered flag? 3.3 seconds now and across the line. He's on his way, folks. Second place Merchant. A struggle of a race this evening. Had great pace initially. And unfortunately, an incident early on costing him a lot of time on track. A lot of track position. Followed by an unfortunate strategy call. The rest of the field had pit before he did. Costing him a lot of time, and it looked like, once again, the timing was misleading me into thinking he was right behind Heel Toe Hero, but there's a 5-second gap there. Victor Paz in the wheel tracks of Soupy, who is in the wheel tracks of the Black Taco. Kind of a nice three-way battle here for P5, 6, and 7. Or, I'm sorry, 6, 7, and 8. My apologies. Again, anybody's game right now. And now Ben Grabo looking to be held up in the slower traffic of the GT3 class up ahead. Still has not found his way around Something Fierce yet, and that is allowing Nikita some room to breathe. But now the gap, they are in the same frame, folks. Nikita is going to start to face pressure here shortly from Ben Grabo if the checkers don't come out sooner rather than later. Soupy really trying to put the moves on the Black Taco. Something Fierce, I'm sorry, not Something Fierce. Victor Paz in the background in that number 4 Corvette, just watching and waiting to pounce, hoping these two drivers battle each other hard enough to trade some paint, get some elbows out, maybe slow each other down, and give him the opportunity to get through. Ben Grabo now mired in traffic ahead, truly costly for his charge to the front. Soupy with a great exit out of turn 1. A nice run here up the hill into the back section of sector 1. Jumps off the line, trying to switch back. Great run here on the exit of the corner as they go side by side. Can Soupy get it done? He doesn't. Door slams closed from Taco. And Rexy drops back to fight another corner. Pops back to the outside, up the side of Taco, and he gets the pass complete now on the downhill into the brake zone. And on the approach to the Schumacher S. Great pass from Soupy. Now, Victor Paz wanting a piece of the action. He's had a strand of unfortunate circumstances this evening. Back into the car, stepping out, going around, making mistakes. Not something he wants to end on tonight. Has an opportunity to claw back a position and take P7 from Taco in the BMW. Folks, just as quick as the fight seemed to be heating up at the front of the field, Ben Grabo now north of 5 seconds behind Nikita. Traffic absolutely killed his momentum. It's going to be a challenge to close that gap now. If you're just tuning in, welcome, and sorry you're only going to be able to get another 2.5 to 4 minutes of racing. I apologize, but this is Can-Am Sim Sports Summer Endurance Series. This is a 6-round championship. I believe it's 6 rounds. Bi-weekly, so we're here this week. We're off next week, and we'll be back on the following week. All multi-class GT3 and GT4 competition, a unique play on the multi-class series. It's kind of nice to see the GT cars, and that's it. No LMP2s, no GTPs. Just getting out here and mixing it up with the GT3 and the GT4 categories. A lot of fun to drive, a lot of fun to watch, and there's been some great tight battles tonight, not just on road track or on the track, but also on pit lane with strategy. Currently watching a battle for P7 in the GT3 class. And Sturhaus seems to be, according to timing, nipping at the heels of Spiky Cactus, but I think that's a lie. Very much a lie. Very much so a lie. We were turned back to the fight for P7, but it seems Victor Paz has had an incident and fallen off the pace, unfortunately. That is damage on the front of that number 4 Corvette racing machine. And that's likely battle done and dusted for P7. Allowing Taco the ability to focus forward and not have to look in his rearview mirrors and try to claim P6 back from Soupy in the number 77 Porsche. Folks, enough cannot be said for this man right here in the number 70 Mercedes-AMG GT3. For Kanzan Performance, Nikita, what a drive. absolutely astonishingly fast from the top of the green. But Ben Grabo did set the fastest Sector 3 time just a few laps ago with a 26.399. This guy has been the car to beat all day, just when we thought he was maybe going to have to fight Ben Grabo for the win. Alas, he stuck it out as the timer expires. I don't know if this will be the final lap or if we'll get one more lap of competition. Around the final corner and down the front straightaway. Nikita has begun to swerve, and that is the checkered flag out. Nikita is your race winner. Ben Grabo will take P2 in Arnold. Lingering further in the back will take P3 in CASS. And folks, another round of applause here for Dill Destroyer. He fought like hell to get this win. And should absolutely pat himself on the back. That was beating Joe Dirt, a challenge all on its own, and second place Merchant was definitely putting the moves on, putting the pressure on, ended up getting the best of him. And Dill Destroyer, calm, consistent, steady, and smooth, and it got him to the front of the field in GT4 and the class win in GT4. Great drive from Dill Destroyer. Joe Dirt comes home P2. Spiky Cactus in P3 in the GT4 category. GT3s round out with Flavio Barros, Something Fierce, the Black Taco, and Yummy Soupy P7, and Victor Paz in P8. Dill Destroyer, Joe Dirt, Spiky Cactus, P3 in GT4. Sturhaas, Heel Toe Hero, and second place Merchant in P6 as we see the wiggle and the flashing headlights from Dill Destroyer. Great qualifying effort for the P2 in qualifying, I believe. Actually, I think he had the pole and lost the lead there at the beginning of the race, but reclaimed it in commanding fashion and takes the win here at the Nürburgring 2020 GP circuit. What a race. Great drive from all of those involved. Good job to everybody racing tonight. Was great race. Massive props to the race winners, the class winners, and massive props to CASS for putting on such a great show yet again. Thinned out a little bit there in the middle of the race, as it does, as strategy started to shuffle out, but we definitely saw the pace start to wake up for a few drivers there, and they really did a good job of keeping it together, keeping it smooth. Happy to see some great drives out there. Thank you so much, Can-Am Sim Sport, for having me in the broadcast booth again. I'm flattered that you all have enjoyed it so much to keep asking me to come back. I'm happy to do it as often as I can, and hope to be doing it a little bit more the next few weeks, as I will be taking I'm going to continue with the IRL stuff, but we'll, when that season wraps up, be taking a bit of a break from the driver's seat and focusing on a little bit of driving, or watching the driving versus the actual driving. So that's going to be all for tonight's show. Massive props again to everybody at CASS for putting on a great race, putting on a great series, and really getting some class act drivers. A lot of fun to watch. The battles on track were brilliant, and I cannot wait to see what the folks have next at Kyalami, one of my personal favorite tracks. So much fun to watch, so much fun to race, and I think these guys are going to be brilliant around the road course in South Africa. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and hanging out. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Take care, and I will see you all tomorrow. Good night, everybody.